see my screen, right? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maniratnam Rajamani. I'm
Good morning.
at Tata Advanced Systems Limited, Hyderabad, under quality engineering function. This webinar is on the application and benefits of the IAQG's Aerospace Improvement Maturity Model, AIMM, shortly called as, which is which is developed by the IAQG team to improve the organizational QMS performance. A disclaimer before we start, all the presentation material which are shown in this webinar are having its inputs from the IAQG and its related publications. We are trying to provide you the up-to-date information and data possible for the Indian aerospace supply chain. The contents of this webinar are for educational purposes only, and it is aimed to create awareness among the webinar participants to use the IAQG applications to the best of its abilities for process improvements that can support the vision, mission, and objectives of the IAQG team. All information contained in this webinar presentation are information collected from IAQG publications, except for the proposals or claims that are presented by the author. INAQG, APAQG, and IAQG is not liable for any claims presented by the authors in this webinar and the forthcoming webinars. This presentation contains no technical data with respect to ITAR, EAR, or any regulatory export control requirements. So the contents will be that we will be first having an introduction to AIMM. Most of you must be hearing this name for the first time. What is the purpose, objectives, and intended use of this particular tool? The next one is on the AIMM concept. What is the concept and maturity levels that has been made in this particular tool? I will show you the AIMM online application also. Those who are using your desktop and laptops can also parallelly log in. We will go through a demo session of the AIMM application. I will also give you a brief about the current status and the future improvements that are going to happen in the AIMM tool, and what are the potential benefits that are going to happen by using this AIMM tool. Finally, we'll end up with a question and answer session where you can post your questions through chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask it. Request the team to be on mute. Anywhere you have a query, please raise your hand, and you can put in your questions in the chat box. We will cover all the questions at the last, and we can provide you with the best possible answers. Any answers which we are not able to provide to you, we will communicate to the AIMM team, and we will come back to you and provide you a response on the questions. We are also planning to have a feedback form which I will circulate post this webinar to all the attendees. You can post your questions also there, and the comments and the improvements section also there. So coming to AIMM. AIMM is a web-based application. It is free for all. There is no cost involved in it. The AIMM application is the Aerospace Improvement Maturity Model. It is a service mark product of IAQG. It has 26 modules with respect to the 9100 standard, which is developed by the IAQG team in 2019. The application was published in August 2021, and it is being linked to the IAQG website. The aim is to support global aerospace organizations to conduct performance self-assessments against the model requirements and aim beyond compliance to 9100 standard requirements, evaluate the current QMS level of maturity, and improve the QMS systems and processes. Identify process and target areas for improvement in terms of procedures, process flows, performance, peoples, and tools. So why AIMM is required? Currently, every aerospace organization is 9100 certified, and the 9100 or the baseline QMS standard, which is ISO 9001, aims and promotes the improvement of the business performance and customer satisfaction. Currently, most of the QMS standards are used as a basic certification standard for being in the business. but it requires a lot of improvements with respect to effective application, value addition, and process enhancement. In short, the current QMSs are considered to be for compliance and not for excellence. So it is a compliance model rather than an excellence model. So the IAQG team has put in some thoughts on how to enhance this compliance model into an excellence model, where the current limitations, which is being only for compliance perspective, it can be enhanced, and by adding performance measuring and improvements to the current QMS, how we can make it into a business excellence model. So the ASD experts, aerospace and as defense experts, have joined together to develop a global QMS improvement approach, which is aiming to continuously improve the level of quality and performance starting at the organizational levels. So similar PDCA cycle has been developed for this particular tool also, where the tool, we will be planning the tool, we will be executing the assessment of the in the tool, and we will check what is the current status and put in action plans on how to improve. So the purpose is that our aerospace organization should move beyond the compliance to 9100 standards and improve their QMSs through the assessment of maturity levels. So that from compliance and conformance perspective, the organizations will move to an improvement and excellence perspective. So the objective is that the tool will be developed. Earlier, this tool was developed as an Excel model, but the IAQG team thought that rather than keeping it as an Excel model, it would be better if we can keep it as a global, globally accessible online tool, which can help people to not only measure but also set targets for improvement, provide a better recognition for their improvement by involving their organizational profile, and it will also enhance the motivation and increase the quality and maturity of the system. So the intended use, see, AIMM is a very flexible and multi-purpose tool. It is primarily for self-assessment. It is for you to assess your own organization, whether you are certified to 9100 or not. And it is by through voluntary. Nobody can force you to perform an AIMM assessment. But if you really want to see where your QMS is, AIMM is the right tool which has to be used. It also can be used to support internal audit programs. As a part of your internal audit improvements, you can use AIMM tool content. It is not a standard requirement. It is also to support external providers for improvement and recognition. AIMM is not to be used as a requirement for supplier selection. This is a very important note, but it can be used to determine the type and extent of controls on suppliers. So especially on supplier surveillance requirements, this can be used as an input by the customer and OEM organizations. However, it is subject to their interest and involvement. So I hope this is clear. Request the participants to please go on. Kindly request the participants to go on mute. Thank you. So as I was saying, AIMM is not intended to be used as a requirement for supplier selection. What is the principle of AIMM? So the same PDCA cycle is followed in the which is also covered in the 9100 standard. Clause 4 to 7 comes under the planning section. Clause 8 on the execution, that is do section. Clause 9 on the performance evaluation, and clause 10 on the actions or improvements that has to be done. There is no limit on how many times you can do an assessment, which is a self-assessment. You can also cover the full scope of the QMS or a particular section of the QMS clause wise. You can also go subclause wise also when you are going to do the assessment. You can use your own organization resources after a short online training. There is no requirement of a qualified auditor. But however, there is an online training which is required to be done by the assessors. You can also use external qualified assessors or assessors from interested parties like customers who can be involved in this. By doing this assessment, it is for your improvement only, right? You cannot claim a compliance to a 9100 standard during an external third party audit, nor it is an alternate to the 9100 certification scheme. So this is a important point that I want to emphasize here. This particular AIMM tool is for improvement purposes only. The results which are there put in the AMM tool, you can set in improvement targets and you can also set in the action plans for improving your organizational QMS and as well as the customer satisfaction processes. Some of the AMM experts and pathfinders who have participated in this particular tool development. This actually started in 2019, and this particular tool has been developed by the 9100 series sub-team, which is led by Mr. Robert Shiasi. And there are some ASD experts who had also participated from all the three sectors of Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. There were also companies from the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific who had participated in the tool development as well as in the tool application. So we did a trial of all the tool requirements and provided a feedback to the IAQG team so that they can improve the tool and provide a better application to the aerospace industry. So the AMM concept, as I told you earlier, it is based on the 9100 standard. It provides a framework to evaluate the level of maturity achieved by the organization with respect to 9100 compliant QMS. So what you do is when you log into the system, you will find that there are a series of modules which are put in. There are around 26 modules with respect to each subclass of the AS 9100 standard. And there are maturity levels which are put in the application. So the maturity levels are from level 1 to level 5. The level 1 and 2 are the initial requirements which are required by the standard. The level 3, 4, and 5 are the higher levels of how you can mature the process and improve the performance of the process. So a complete set of maturity assessment criteria is also given. So the definition of what initial, what managed, level 3 deployed, level 4 predictable, and level 5 optimizing is. So that definition is provided. So we will go through that in the next slide. So what is level 1? So level 1 is basically the expected outcome or achieved, but in a reactive and repeatable fashion, a non-repeatable fashion. So basically this particular requirement states that whatever the clause requirement of the standard, it is met, but it is in a mostly on a reactive or on a non-repeatable fashion, right? So that is one thing which is covered in this. The second one is level 2, which is managed. The definition of level 2 managed is that the processes result in expected outcome that are consistently achieved and controlled, but mainly at a project or product level only. So at a summary level, yes, we are doing it, but it is not established at a detail level where it is done. Level 3 is deployed. So basically level 3 in the sense the process is to achieve expected outcomes and it is defined and deployed across the organization. So if you have deployed the process completely throughout your organization, then it is called level 3. Level 4 is that if there is a systematic management with quantitative targets and measures for those process performances, right? If you are able to set up key performance indicators, if you are able to put in performance measures for ensuring that the process is actually managed and deployed within the organization, then that is coming under level 4. And level 5 is organizations which are focused on being best in class. So this is the highest level. It is very difficult. It is the highest level of maturity. Each class has a level 5 requirement, which is considered if the class is considered to be very important. Not every class will have a level 5 requirement, which we can see when we are going through the tool, through the modules. So level 5 is basically at a higher level of maturity. So if you have achieved level 5, that means you have implemented all the expectations. Of course, there may be cases where you could have done more than what is called out in the AIMM, But in that case, you can provide a feedback to AMM, and they can improve the tool and continuously see that the levels of expectation and the bars are set accordingly. Yes. So one of the questions that many people have is that why there is a maturity assessment? I already have a certification audit. Why should I do it as a maturity assessment? See, the certification audit principle is that the certification audit evaluates the QMS, and it evaluates whether the QMS is meeting the minimum level of compliance of the 9100 standard, right? Regardless of the maturity. Whereas maturity assessment sees where the 9100 compliance is there and to what level of maturity it has achieved. So AMM can be used by both certified and non-certified organization, regardless of your certification status. Those who are non-certified organizations, for example, those who are new to 9100 certification standard requirements, if you are preparing for your organization or for your supplier organization, you can suggest the AMM tool to them. They can use this and understand the QMS in a much better way. So the type of result in a certification audit is either a pass or fail, right? And you give it if there are non-conformances raised, then you provide a root cause and corrective action to the non-conformances, and then you get a single certificate for the whole QMS. But in practicality, the entire QMS will not have the same level of maturity for all the processes within the QMS. So this maturity assessment gives you one maturity level per assessed module. So it does not give you an aggregation of the whole QMS, but it tells you individual processes. What are the maturity levels? For example, your non-conformance management process. What is the maturity level of your non-conformance management process? That kind of assessment criteria can be provided by this tool. And eitherly this third-party certification audits are conducted, and primarily this particular assessment can be conducted by your internal assessors. And the reference standard is for both it is 9100, but in the AMM module, the 9100 standard clause requirements are broken into different levels, right? So that you can see that the maturity level is being assessed properly. Uh, See, there is also a note which I would like to emphasize. Just because you are reaching the level of maturity does not necessarily ensure that you will have a successful certification. You have to meet the certification body's requirements, but you can have a correlation of what level of maturity it is there and what improvements you can do. So when you are having level 1, so if you're not meeting level 1, then ideally speaking, you will not be able to get your certification. But if you are using, if you are being in level 2 or level 3, most probably you will be certifiable, but you will definitely end up in a non-conformance, right? And which you have to provide a root cause and corrective action to the certification body, and then you will get your QMS certification. And level 4 and level 5 are basically the highest level of maturities where you are meeting the minimum standard requirements. You will be able to pass the 9100 audits without non-conformances, and you will be able to improve your process, and your process will give you the benefits of its implementation and its sustenance. So AMM is not a replacement or a competitor of any certification audit or customer audit. They are only complementary. So I'm repeatedly emphasizing this because people should not claim AMM as a replacement. It is not a replacement. Okay, so we'll go through the AMM 9100 modules breakup. So as I told you, the same 9100 clauses and subclauses, clause 4 to 6, which covers on the planning section. 7 again breakup is on coming on the planning section. Clause 8 is on the execution, and clause 9 is on the check or improvement level, and clause 10 focuses entirely on the improvement. So the roadmap, what you have to do before starting the AMM tool use, right? First, you have to study the AMM modules. There are 26 modules. Please study them in detail, understand the levels of maturity, what is expected from each level, has to be understood. There are versions and language options. Versions will be applicable for us, but since in India everyone uses English as the official language for our business purposes, so there should be no issue. But there are other countries which use specific their languages. So for them there are language options. There are subclasses and their expected outcomes mapped against each of the subclasses, and comment section for each section is be provided. There is a training need which has to be completed by the assessors and the assessee. This training is provided at a low cost by the IAQG certified training provider, Plexus International. It is not mandatory. It is only optional. If you want to understand the AIMM module better, then you can go. But there are also free webinars which are there for the assessors. I will show you when we go into the tool. There is a free webinar where you can access the training, and you can certify yourselves internally as an assessor. Next is on the planning. So this can be very helpful for the organization. You can create a encrypted assessment plan. This is again the data security is there. There are few improvements which are also being put in the data security perspective. Many organizations feel that what if my data is being seen by others? There are controls which are established, so you don't have to worry about it. Within your organization, I mean, it's a single user ID login. So within your organization, that particular user can use this. And you can also select and deselect modules based on your assessment scope. You can schedule an assessment date and time and set the target levels. So the target levels are from a maturity level of 1 to 5, again level 1 to level 5. You can set your target level. It is not mandatory that everything has to be 5, right? So you can understand based on your level of what is the target level you would like to have for each of the clauses of 9100. And then you identify the assessment team and then perform the assessment. Next is when you perform the assessment, what you have to do. So that also we will explain you what is that you have to do, right? And how you are going to set the criteria. So there are 3 levels of criteria which are there, which you have to mention with the remarks. It is not that you just give a percentage and just say that this particular process is there. You have to mention a remark section also as an assessor comment, and you have to provide the level completion if it is there, and based on the level completion the calculation will be done on the background by the tool, and it will tell you what is your QMS process maturity. You can also put in certain assessor notes which is can be referred at a later date. uh, Wherever there is maturity less than what you have targeted, you can record action items with responsibility and dates, responsible person and the dates for completion. And if required, you can print the report and you can use it for further improvement purposes. Uh, Post performing the assessment, you can view the results. There is a radar chart which is provided with respect to the percentage assessed and the achieved level. And with respect to the target level, what is your current status? You can also use previous assessments which are there. You can create multiple assessments for before after analysis to see how your improvement is being done over the due course. And you can review the improvement actions, whether they are implemented, and you can identify areas which still require improvement. Last is you can provide feedback on the AIMM tool. The self-assessment tool will give you some benefit. You can ask the IAQG team any kind of feedback or improvement that you want to develop in the tool. You also have an option to provide statistical data to IAQG, but in an anonymous manner. So nobody will know that this particular company has only given this data. So that anonymous manner, you can provide your data, and this is to understand the pulse of the QMS maturity in the global market, right? So this is to understand that the IAQG team will use this only for statistical data analysis purposes. right? So that will be also, you can provide it. It is optional. If you want to provide it, you can provide. If you don't want to provide, you can deselect it, and you need not provide it. It is up to the user. So as I told you, when you are planning, please decide the scope. What is your scope that you want to cover? What are the target maturity levels for each AMM module that you want to assess? What are the human resources involved? This is one of the biggest challenges, both at assessor and assessee level. You can use your internal auditors. You can qualify them as assessors by making them go through the webinar. It's a free webinar, and please find some time for the auditors to assess. So anything that is not meeting the requirement or the target which you have set, you don't have to raise a non-conformance. You can just create an action plan, and you can present that action plan as an improvement under clause 10. So please try to find some time and resources to put in, so that you can improve your current QMS outputs. And finally, you can put in the defined assessment schedule, and you can go ahead. Next is how you have to perform. So before performing, please give a proper briefing. What is the reason and purpose of this exercise? So for example, if you want to do an assessment of your internal audit process, okay, so please call the internal audit team, the MR, and the relevant stakeholders. Please provide what is the reason and purpose of performing this assessment. What are you trying to achieve? And what is the time and the resources which are required. So the difference between the internal audit and this type of verification is that uh, this is not a non-conforming thing. We are not trying to find non-conformances. We are trying to find improvements, right, in our process. So this is not with respect to an action plan, and you can present this under clause 10 as improvement. So please convey that to the team, because the moment you say an assessment, people will try to take a defensive mode, and they would not be coming forward. So please give that clarity to the team, right, before performing the assessment. Again, the date and location, you can plan on a Saturday. You can call all the people, make them sit and understand what is the requirement, and then on a few weeks later you can conduct the assessment and perform it, right? It can be a joint cross-functional team exercise. The next thing is, when you're performing this assessment, it has to be based on objective evidence rather than subjective. So similar to the audits, you will take samples, and you will understand what is the maturity level of this particular process. So do not go subjective, stating that from a quality team, if the engineering team is being assessed, then you will go and find out all the issues. No, you are trying to find out what is the maturity level the engineering processes are, right? So, or what is the maturity level the production processes are. So please try to find it at that level, and be honest to the key persons who are concerned. If you find something really serious and you want to address it through a CAR management system, a corrective action request management system, then please go through it, go through the key persons and the stakeholders, get their buy off, and then go ahead, right? And the document, whatever the conclusions which are coming out, please document it, and understand what is the maturity level that you want to achieve by improvement or through any reactive actions. Some key recommendations when before the assessors. Please use the same assessor. Do not change the assessors when you are performing this kind of any assessment for that matter, because the assessor would have already understood the process when he is doing the initial assessment. Okay, so when there is a after improvement assessment which is happening, if you are using the same assessor, then it will speed up the learning curve, and it will give you a better output, because he has already gone through the requirements before when you are doing the initial assessment, right? So similarly, the communication practices which are established within the organization, that has to be followed by the assessors, and assessments are to verify improvements, right? They should be performed by the same assessors to ensure that subjectivity is not there. There is objectivity in the assessment, right? Some of the key things that assessors should know before they start is that the 9100 standard. Yes, of course, the assessor should know what is 9100 standard, what is the QMS and processes of the organization, what are the improvement concepts that are being used with respect to the IAQG standards and as well as the organizational processes. A brief understanding of the AIMM model, its assessment process and the tool structure. Personal skills, which are basically open-minded, ethical, and he should be diplomatic. He should not be subjective. So when you are defining and implementing improvements, right, you are supposed to take the benefit of the maturity assessment, analyze the results to identify the gaps in your organization processes, define an improvement plan with respect to actions, resources, and deadlines, and monitor it with the top management or leadership, and understand what are the risks, priorities, and objectives of this improvement plan. When there is a new assessment required, consider establish a proper timeline. So IAQG does not say you have to do assessment every once in a year. You can do it multiple within a year. If you really feel that you need to do it every 6 months, you can do it. If you feel that once in a year is good to go, you can go ahead. There is no mandate, but it is always good to do it at a defined frequency. One idea which was proposed is that anyhow, when you do the initial assessment, you will have a deadline date for the action plan. Please take that deadline date and confirm with the assessee that whether all the action items are closed. Then you can plan for an assessment immediate after that. To raise the bar and as well as to verify whether the actions have been implemented or not. So regular assessments, it will help you to go to a higher maturity level at a faster pace. For example, if you are implementing a software and it will take around 10 months to do, right, from the date of the assessment. So it is good to do it after the implementation after a year, but it is better to do it in 6 months to understand what is the level of implementation of that software. Right. So it is always good to know what action plans are being, what is the status of the action plan. So it is good to do at a regular interval. And you can also have benefits when you are implementing such kind of improvements, by ensuring preventive and optimization for your organizational processes, right? And finally, I would request all the demonstrated improvements should be recognized and celebrated within the organization, because people should get the benefit, and they should be recognized for their improvement actions, right? So that is very, very important. So online application. Now we are coming to till now we have discussed about AIMM. I will just wait for 2 minutes to get some questions. I think there are few questions which are there. If anybody wants to ask one at a time, you can ask any questions with respect to the concept of AIMM. Yeah, so some of the questions which are coming here are that people are asking how to assess and how the are they integrated with the IAQG website. Yes, there are integrations available. I will show you when we go further in the training webinar session. With respect to the concept, any questions?
Yeah, Manish sir, this is Akash here.
Yeah.
Manish sir, you explained the concept of maturity, like 1 to 5. Sir,
Yes.
what I am finding it like the way it has been explained, it is more of a subjective based in comparison to more of a objective. Like people, if let's say two assessors are there, one can rate any, for a particular item as 2, or somebody can rate the same item as 3, means after assessing. If two
Very good.
SSs are there, they are of two like different nature. One can be like more picky, and other can be like, okay, fine. So one can be like, okay, give it 3. Somebody can give it 4. So that way, how can anything be done in with respect to that whosoever is there should
Yes.
be able to give it the same rating.
Correct. So very good question, Akash. Thank you for that. Actually, this particular point was discussed in the implementation level that when there are more than two assessors, what should be followed. So one thing I didn't cover explicitly is that when the assessor is there a requirement for lead assessor? Okay, so similar to the internal audit, similar to the external audits, there is always a lead person, who gets the inputs from the assessors, and he determines what is the level. The same structure is being followed here. You won't find it in the presentation, but when you go through the tool and when you plan an assessment, every assessment should be led by someone. And that particular leader will provide, he will review. His responsibility is to collect all the assessors data, review it, and understand whether that particular process is really at that maturity level or is it at a higher or a lower level, right? So the lead assessor determines that. So that should avoid the confusion of your two assessors having different points or different subjective actions, right? And
So
it
you
is
are telling
always
that
on an objective level. Yeah, I'll just finish it. It is always on an objective level. So the assessee has to show an evidence similar how you show it in an audit. But in an audit, you will show mostly on a compliance perspective, right? But here you don't show it on a compliance perspective. You show it on a maturity level perspective. So there are criteria which are set up with when we are going for this level 1 to level 5 for each clauses. We can read through that. And if the assessee feels that that particular clause outcome is being met, right, then he can say that it is meeting the level 3 requirement, right, or level 2 requirement. But if the assessee feels something which is mentioned in the clause is not there, right, then you will have to have an action plan to say how you are going to meet that. Now, anything you want to change on the clause expectation, yes, that is also possible, but you have to write it to AIMM, get their buy off, because these clauses are vetted by most of the aerospace organizations, especially the OEMs who are there, like Boeing, Pratt and Whitney. You have Airbus also who are there in this, and they have also gone through these requirements in detail, and they have vetted these requirements. And one more point I want to emphasize is many of you know there is a auditor guidance material which is available in the IAQG website. Most of these subclass outcomes are derived from that auditor guidance material. Okay, so they are derived from that. They are not exactly the same. They are derived, and they are put in from that perspective, so that it will also help you in your audits, as well as it also will help you in your considering your maturity level. Did I answer your question, Akash?
Yeah. In short, I can make out like who would be the lead auditor. He would be having a upper hand to decide what would be the final maturity level.
Correct. Correct. Understood. You're
Okay.
right.
Thank
Mr. Mani, I am Surya Prasad from Bharat Electronics. Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Yes, sir,
Yeah.
you're audible.
See, in our external audit, generally they give a peer report, that is process effectiveness assessment report.
Correct.
Usually that is the maturity level they also define there.
Correct.
So in what way the same is different from that?
Yes. Thank you for the question, sir. I will. I would like to answer this at the last when we go through the tool, so that you will be able to appreciate it better. In short, what I will say is the peer report is on a certain process of your QMS. The first point is in the peer report, not all processes of the QMS will be assessed. There will be some selected processes only which will be assessed during that particular audit period. Second thing is the peer says, for example, what is the maturity level of your production process, but it doesn't say what is the maturity level of each of the subclasses of the production process. That is clause 8.5. So each of the subclass requirements, how the maturity level is there, that they will not be able to cover it in the peer. So they will say in the peer, whether have you established the process, is the process achieving the results, and is the results being achieved with respect to the targets set. So that is the consideration in the peer. which is there. I will show you the peer also at a later time when we will show you the peer format. And you after we complete the tool application, you should be able to understand it better.
Yeah, I got it, because peer generally it is used by the external auditor, but maybe AIM can be used by internal process. This can be
Yes. Yes, sir. And at a more detailed level.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So
Thanks, Mani. Now, before you go into the AI maturity model, I'm hoping that you have a rating chart or something, which would focus on the question number 1. Am I right?
yeah, so we will we have a so each class has different levels of maturity expected outcome. So we will go through that and then we can see. I'll tell you how the maturity rating or score has to be put in the
Sure.
tool itself. It is there. Yeah.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
the first things first. So we will proceed. Please type your comments in the chat box. We will go through your comments at the last, right? In view of time, I'm just trying to move forward. So coming to the AMM online application. So just please log it. Go to IAQG. Just type in Google IAQG, or you can go to www.iaqg.org. You can select the AMM under the IAQG tools section, and the AMM website will open. You can also directly go to the AMM website. So you can log in with your name. Let me just show you how to log in. So as I told you, please log into Google. Type IAQG. So you will get the IAQG website. You can log in. You can access it. Now you can go to the IAQG tool section where you generally go for the YSS. I hope everyone knows about the YSS. Under the YSS, you have SEMH and dictionaries, IAQG dictionary and AIMM. So please click on AIMM. So it will give you this particular page. You can click on access AIMM. Now, new user register. Those who are on laptop, you can see this and you can register it later. Please see this. Do not parallelly use it when I'm showing it here. So you can click on new user register and you can put in your I would suggest please put in your official email because you are linking your email with your organization name. So please put in your official email ID, name, and full name, organization, which part of business, aviation, space, or defense, and if any other, please mention it. What is the size of your organization, the location? So ours will come under Asia Pacific. And what is the current QMS certification that you have? And if anything else, so if you're not 9100, for example, if you are NatCap AQS, please mention that. Or if you're ASA, please mention that. Next is, you can create your own password. Under the agreement, please read the terms of use. Okay, it's very important because many people have this question: what happens to my data when when it is going into the online tool? So many people have the wrong conception that anybody can access this data and see your company's profile or your company's current status. So please go through this terms of condition because it clearly says at the last on the data protection, which is there with respect to Annexure 1. And Annexure 1 details what kind of data protections are put in currently. And IAQG also complies with the data protection laws of both Europe and as well as Americas. And I think for Asia Pacific, there is nothing separate, but for Americas and Europe, it is there. The country specific laws requirements also will be covered. And if you go down, yeah, Annexure 1 says user data protection. It tells you about your registration, account, password securities, what are the controls which are there with respect to them, and what data you have. I mean, what data you enter when you put in the self-assessment data, right? So what details will you put in, how they are able to control it, right? So all this data is provided to you using an encryption key. I will show you what is the encryption key. It's called as passcode. So for example, if Maniratnam has created something and so Maniratnam only can edit that, right? Because it's a single user to user ID. There are some improvements which are coming up in the future where you can create it for an entire organization and you can have multiple users. But again, an encryption key or a passcode is required for you to access that assessment, right? So this encryption key is provided. So even if Maniratnam has, if my password or user ID password is hacked, the encryption key will protect us with the data, right? So again, if Maniratnam has given Maniratnam encryption key as Maniratnam, then it can be hacked easily, right? So coming to the next one on the self-assessment results. So whatever your results will be there, only after you give the consent, the data will go to IAQG. So till the time you don't give the consent, which I will show you in the feedback section, your data will not go. And if you're the data which goes will be anonymous. Okay. To a certain extent, yes, it will be anonymous. Uh, Again, if you are want to transfer any of the data assessment results to IAQG, yes, you can opt with an encryption key and you can transfer it to them also. So just click on agree to terms of use. And again, it is the terms of use. Please go through it in detail. Just because I'm showing, please don't assume that everything is good. Please go through it in detail and then only agree for use. So when you agree for use, then it will, you are giving explicit to use profile data and application usage data. So if you select this, then you have to give you are giving the consent. So generally people have the habit of selecting everything and creating the registration. So please read this clearly and then give again terms of use. So if you do not want to give any consent, then you can deselect this and still create a registration. Okay, so this is how you do. So when you create the registration, it will directly give you a user ID password, right? So which you can do. The next one is again, if you forget your password, you can click on forgot password. You can put in your email address and the password will be reset to you. So let me just give you my login. Yeah. So when you log in to this tool, I hope registration should not be a challenge. It's a very simple format. Right. Coming to the next one, when you go for the AMM tool, so this is the home page. The home page is on the welcome note. You will have your name, your details of the organization. You have some quick links which are there. These quick links are also the modules, the steps what we saw. The first is the study, the second is the plan assessment, third is the perform, fourth is the view, fifth is the provide feedback. So there are also some information which are there for your support. One is on the introductory presentation. So some of the content that I have shown covered in the slide, you can download it as an introductory presentation, and you can go through it. There is also a user guide which tells you each module how you have to use it. Best practices. So currently there are best practices which are established under the SEMH. So if you would like to see a certain clause, I think in the introductory slide to INAQG, we have shown some SEMH topics, right, which were there for each of the clause requirements. So they are integrated. One of the improvements which is going to happen is integrating these modules with the SEMH best practices. So when these best practices are going to they can be referred, right? And some of the supply chain management best practices are frequently reviewed by the IAQG team and revised. Some not so much. But when we link this and when the tool is being used widely, the expectation is that the SCMH best practices also will get revised. And recorded webinar. So there is a recorded webinar which was organized by Plexus International on 9th September. You can view this webinar. It is free for review. You can just give your basic registration details and you can access it. You can also go through the Plexus website also for this. The next one is on so I would recommend the assessors to please go through these documents. That is the recorded webinar, AIMM user guide and introductory presentation. The introductory presentation first, then the user guide and the recorded webinar in the order. And please go through the make yourself internally qualified to become an assessor. Right. There are also e-learnings which are there at a cost level. But there are some, you have to pay for it. This offered by Plexus International. It costs you around $100 for a single user access for 365 days. And you can go through that. There is a demo also for which is free, which is zero cost, but it will only cover the basics. It's just a half an hour demo, whereas this particular e-learning will take you around 4 to 5 hours. FAQs, yes, there are certain FAQs. I will go through the FAQs once we complete the session. The FAQ section will answer most of your questions to a certain extent. Yes, they will. This is a first FAQ document which is put in because this tool is fairly new. It was recently offered in August to the global supply chain. So it is fairly new. So the more questions we ask, the more questions they will also be able to answer and put it in the FAQ section, right? So let me just go to the study section first. So this is how it looks. So as I told you, there are versions. There is a version 2.0 which is being developed. There is also an intermediate version which is going to come. The 2.0 version is expected to be with respect to the revised 9100 standard, which will come in approximately 2023 end or 24. The intermediate one will come most probably next year. Currently version 1 is there. The two languages are there. So ours is English. We will prefer to use English. And there are other languages also which are being developed for translation across the world so that people can use from Europe and Asia Pacific. With respect to each module, so let me just show you each of the modules. So let us start with module 4. So first things first, as I told you, every module will have a subclass which is put in with respect to the 9100 standard. The expected outcome is put in from the standard, and there are different levels of maturity. As I told you earlier, not every level, every clause or subclause will have a level 5 maturity. Okay, there are some levels which are stopping at level 4 itself. There are some requirements or expected outcomes which are stopping at level 4 itself. Again, the team would want to improve on this. If any feedback is there, we can provide. So a simple example, let us take class 1, which is 4.1. I would like to show 9100 standard in parallel so that we can correlate it efficiently. This is my copy, so I have I purchased it, so I think I should not be a problem to show. Please do not take any screenshots. Yeah. So let us go to clause 4.1. Yeah, so basically the clause 4.1 is on the understanding the organization and its context, right? And there is a content which is called out from the ISO 9000 standard, and it is put there are no additional requirements to 9100, right? The same requirement is put in here. External and internal issues that may affect the strategic decision or the intended results of the organization are determined, right? So there are this is the requirement, right, which is called out in the standard. Now for this requirement, there are different levels in which you can show the compliance as well as on the maturity. So from a compliance perspective, if you have defined the internal and external issues, right, and it is limited for certain parts of the organization, right, or if you are defined it in an ad hoc manner, then that falls under the initial level 1. So the assessor, what he has to see is that are there internal and external issues that are determined for all parts of the organization, that is all functions of the organization, right? It doesn't say which methodology. So when you show me, see in compliance, you will show that these are the list of external and internal issues that are determined, right? Now, when you do it at an overview, it meets the level 1 requirement, right? It meets the certification standard requirement. But the auditor can also ask, I'm just correlating it with an audit. the auditor can also ask, okay, how did you determine that these are the total list of internal and external issues for your organization? So that means you must have some internal and external issues which are listed out with respect to functions, right? So if you are able to show that, then you are at a level 2, right? So that level it is there, right? And the third thing is the determination includes issues related to technology, process performance, and legal aspects. Now again, when you see this particular this is only on the compliance perspective. Now when you see on the deployed, how have you deployed it across the organization? So are you collecting feedback, or are you collecting the list of internal and external issues across your organization from all the functions, and how are they being determined, right? Are they being considered with respect to the competitive market, economic environment, knowledge of the organization, and culture? Then that comes under the level 3. Right. So this also understands. This also says that if you're able to understand and document these internal and external issues, then it says that it is a level 3. Now, if you're using certain tools like PEST or PESTLE or SWOT analysis, and you are trying to find out what are the internal and external issues that are which are going to be at a higher level, and for determining these internal and external issues, then that comes under the level maturity of 4, which is predictable. So you are using these tools to predict it, right? Of course, you have to meet level 1, 2, 3, and then go to 4, right? So these are the some of the maturities that are there. So when an assessor sees, so the first thing what he sees is a PEST or PESTLE, or a SWOT analysis, or a risk cube matrix. And from there, he breaks it up. Okay, so I have a SWOT analysis. Now, have they considered all the requirements of internal and external issues? Then have they listed out it function wise? Then are they, then the total list is being prepared or not? So that way also you can do it. Okay, I hope I have explained it in a proper manner. Okay, if any questions, yeah, if any questions, you can put it in the chat box. We can review it when we finish the webinar. Right now, you want to give a comment on this particular level 1. Okay, you feel that the content called in this is not, it's very subjective, or it's very general. It is not objective, right? So please go ahead, give your comments, right? Give your comments here, save it, right? So once you save it, it will be there. So once you completely study all the clause requirements, right, you can take these comments and provide your feedback to the AIMM tool. Okay, it is a two-way communication. Please don't think that, oh, somebody has called that this is level 3. So should it be level 3? No, it can be level 4 or it can be level 2. If you feel that, or the outcome level maturity statement requires a modification in the context or the grammar, right? You can please provide your feedback. That's not an issue. See, we have provided it during the trial. There were a lot of contents which were not meeting. So what we did is we reviewed the ISO 9004 TS document, and we also reviewed the auditor guidance material, and we took some feedback from that, and then we provided it to the team, and most of them were incorporated, actually, frankly speaking. So it is not that no, I have put this, people have to follow this. There is no such call out, right? Everyone has a voice to say in this, irrespective of your certification status. Everyone who uses this tool has a voice to give your feedback, right? Right. So going to the next section, I think we will take something which is very not very generic, like very specific, right? So for example, when you go to clause 4.2, right, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. I'm sorry, anyone has anything to say?
So 4.2, it means interested parties.
Yes, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. So if you go here.
Yeah, interested parties in the sense our stakeholders, vendors, suppliers, employees.
Yes, sir. So we will go through that. Actually, if you read the statement, so the standard says again, because of their effect or potential effect of the organization's ability to provide products and services consistently that meet customer applicable requirements. These are the requirements. So the requirement is to identify the or determine the interested parties within the QMS relevancy, right? So this is the clause which calls for that, right? Relevant interested parties are determined and related information monitored in relation to the organization activities and their impact on QMS. Now, if you see from a compliance perspective, how will you show? So you will show a list of interested parties, right? And you will show that it is primarily restricted because of their impact. So it can be customers, suppliers, which are there, uh, whose feedback or effect will have a negative impact on the organization. So if you have listed only your supplier or customer as your interested party, right, and if you are considering only their information which is monitored, then it is you are at a level 1. But if you're considering interested parties, right, and if you're expanding the information from customers and you are also including the internal organization functions and the associated personnel, then like managers, employees, contractors, your leadership and all those things, then also it comes under level 2, right? Then you are falling under level 2. So the assessor has to review the document and understand under which level of maturity the current QMS is. So ideally speaking, the interested parties are those which are having impact on the QMS scope of products and services, right? So it should include more than these. It should include regulatory bodies. It should include shareholders. It should include, financial controllers, if any, government organizations who are involved apart from the customers, right? So if those are also understood, then that you will be taken understood and taken into your assessment or taken into your list of interested parties and their needs, determination of their needs, then you are under level 3. Now, predictable. If you are able to periodically review and update the needs and expectations of the interested parties, and you are having a method internally which you have deployed to analyze and see how these are interacting and how the impact or the potential impact is having having a effect on your QMS processes or your ability to deliver products and services, then it falls under level 4, right? So basically level 4 is where you take output from the data. See, level 1 is basically you have a document. In short, I'm just giving you a brief. It may not be exactly the same when you go through different subclasses. Level 1 is basically something which you have written something, you are meeting it. Level 2 is, okay, you are able to show some compliance to it, right? But not fully deployed by everyone, right? Only a certain section of the QMS is able to show compliance. Level 3, if you are able to show compliance to it by deploying it throughout the organization. So anybody I call and I check with them, right? Have you deployed it? Can you show me, can you tell me what is the interested party of or interested party within the organization? Or can you tell me what is the expectations and needs of engineering function? And people are able to show it, right? This is my expectation, which is from my engineering function, or this is expected from my engineering function. Then that is basically on the deployed part. And predictable is when the data is talking to you, so that you can use the data to predict something.
Yeah.
And optimizing is whether if everything is streamlined and if there is one-to-one and if there is to and fro communication, if there is data taken for making decisions and you are developing things across the organization with those data, then that is at the optimizing level. Okay, so for example here, so one of the things, the requirements of interested parties are determined and monitored. Now, if you have just a list stating these are my requirements and expectations of the interested parties, yeah, that should be enough for your 9100 audit. But again, the auditor may ask more data, right? The auditor has every requirement to ask. So you should be having it at a product level or at a project level or at a functional level, right? And similarly, if you have deployed clear roles and responsibilities for determining the requirements and you have collected the data inputs, then that should be at a deployment level. Predictable is when you are getting data proactively from conducting surveys, market feedback analysis, face-to-face meetings. You're calling people to as a Kaizen group. Collecting the data, management review meetings. You are collecting the data. Then it is and using that to improve. Then it is predictable, right? If you are able to map the requirements with respect to the quality, with respect to the goals or the objectives with a RACI matrix, right? And you track it for their closures, then that should be at a optimizing level, right? So this is are the different levels in which you can meet the requirements of interested parties, and you can determine and monitor the requirements of the interested parties. So like this, we have different levels. So I'll not go through clause 4 in detail. Clause 4, you can go through it in detail. Let me go through some of the important clauses which can directly affect the product quality and services, right? So we still have only 25 minutes. I will stop in another 15 minutes, and then we can have the last 10 minutes for the question and answer session. So I'll go to the one of the clauses which is there, which is controlling of non-conforming products. So every organization should have this major important clause where, for example, there is a requirement documented information is maintained for the non-conformity control process. OK, now, for example, you have a procedure, right? Again, the documented information does not necessarily mean a procedure, right? So if you have a process for controlling non-conforming product, right? But it is not in detail, it's very overview. It's just 2-3 pages. It just gives you a high level structure, but not at a detail level what is to be done. Then that falls under level 1. Now, if you see the document structure or the documented information structure, right, and there are flow charts which are put in for the awareness increasing the awareness of the process to ensure that it reaches the process owners effectively, right? And if you are having flow charts for the control of non-conformities at different functions, so you do design, manufacturing and service, or you do only manufacturing. So within manufacturing, if you have non-conformance flow chart, right, the process flow chart, and you periodically review it. It's not that it was created 5 years back and then nobody has done any change to the process, right? It is periodically reviewed and updated as per the new program scope or as per the existing program feedback. If you have a review, if you have a responsibility and authority which is established, that these people are required for controlling the non-conforming outputs, or these people are responsible for identification of non-conforming outputs, and these people are approved to provide disposition either from the customer, collecting the approval from the customer and then providing an internal disposition, or providing rework disposition with respect to the organizational process or customer defined process, right? So if there are then is there a list of authorized signatories, authorities which are provided, roles and responsibilities which are provided. And similarly, if there is a tracker which collects the data, right, in a proper effective manner, so that data is also there, right? Next one is deployed in the sense you make a non-conformance management process, but that non-conformance management process is it defines the personnel making the decisions. It takes the what are the actions which are to be performed when there is an effect of the non-conformance, when there is timely reporting, which is going to impact the delivery or the services, and if it is also capturing the corrective actions for the non-conforming processes which are detected after delivery, right? And there are some basic indicators, right? Basically saying how many open non-conformances or how many closed, what is this week's non-conformance data. So that kind of things which are there, right? As a form of a tracker. Generally, people have a non-conforming tracker, right? If that is there, then it is deployed, and people are knowing that. Now predictable. Now predictable is where you use from a Excel tracker, you move it to an IT tool, right? Now this IT tool has some requirement. Now Excel is also an IT tool, but what does it do out of the Excel, of the IT tool? That is what is mentioned here. Now, if you have the process for controlling using a IT tool, we know which can hold the work orders of non-conforming products, which can provide you communication internally by through emails, SMSs, controlling that this particular work order non-conformance has been raised, and people are made aware. There is a PLM or an ERM, ERP system which holds this, which is established. Then you are at again partially you are at predictable performance indicators. Now, if your performance indicators are in place, right, which is basically percentage of non-conforming versus conforming outputs, PPM, if you're analyzing the data month-wise data, and you're analyzing the trend for increment, decrement, and you're projecting it in the management reviews, then it is predictable, right? Optimizing. Now, optimizing is more or less you are using, again, predictable and optimizing. The maturity level is quite increment. If you have deployed all this expectations completely and your system is to the mark, I mean, meeting all the requirements, then you are at level 5. But ideally speaking, it cannot be, right? Every organization has a maturity level, and every process has a maturity level over the period. So I would suggest level 5 is not achievable 100%. To a certain extent, yes, level 5 can be achievable, but level 4 should be our targets, right? The moment because level 4, the objective is that the data should speak to us. It should give us data on how we have to proceed ahead, right? So that is the objective of all these maturity outcomes. And optimizing, yes, there are always scopes for optimizing. There is no end to optimizing, right? To a certain extent, yes, you can optimize every process, either in terms of lean or in terms of quality or in terms of delivery, in terms of all the SQCD, MMPE, right? Topics. So optimizing is always a scope for discussion, but this one. So I'll just go to the, I think I have expected, explained you the levels in detail and what is to be expected. Please go through each module. Every module has different levels of expectation. Please don't think only one expectation is there. Now under 8.7, you have multiple expectations, right? So when you are devising an IT tool, one of the important things that you have to understand is that when you are developing an IT tool for your non-conformance management process, please go through all these requirements. It will help you out in making the tool in a more robust and reliable manner. So that should be the objective of these AMM outcomes, right? So this is one of the outputs that I feel that can be used. Rather than blindly working on people's experience. Of course, people's experience do matter, but when you join experience with content and context of the standard, it should give you a better output, right? Next, going to the plan, I'll just show you because we are running out of time. We can talk on this hours together, but it is good. We have only scheduled 2 hours on this. Yeah, so you can create, there are 3 sections: create new assessment, work with ongoing or past assessments. You can edit and you can do. You can also select modules individually, right? And you can define the target levels. You can directly select all. If you don't want to select everything, you can select all, and then you can use it. Define the target levels for each. You can delete the modules, right? Because I'm in my own login I have created, I can delete it. So you can delete the modules. So let me just create a new one. So when you create a new assessment, you have to provide the name of the assessment, the version. So currently only 1.0 is there, the language, passphrase. So this is the password which is there, right? So please give a password. This passphrase is basically for the encryption of the data. Even if somebody logs in with your ID without this passphrase code, they will not be able to use the data, right? But if you forget the passcode, IAQG will not be able to retrieve it. Okay, they will be able to give you your password, but they will not be able to give you your passcode, right? So passcode is what you have to see, right? If you forget it, then you can't retain it. Because the idea is passphrase, somebody has to store it, right? And then review it. So which they don't want to do. The scope, please write the scope of the organization, the departments, the team. Yeah, so I think Akash has this question: who is the assessment team? So there is a lead assessor. So the team basically performs, they generally work in parallel, right? And each team member will use a single common account. Basically, the common account will be created by the assessor, lead assessor. Okay. And alternatively, any existing account can be shared by the team, right? Uh, then you have to define who is the lead assessor, team members, and what are the assigned modules for each team member. Then the team members will be able to log in into the common account and perform the assessment. This common account, again, people are trying to restrict access as an improvement. It is going to come. And on the limitation, again, in the current version, the last edits of any specific module would override the previous entries. So basically, there is no history maintained in the current thing. So if there is, so if I have typed something, then 2 days later I log in again and then I type something and then give, I will not be able to retrieve the data which I have typed 2 days back. So that is the current limitation in the tool now. Ideally speaking, they are working to have this history like how we have in Google, where you can go back and see who has changed, what is the data and everything. But it requires some time for the development. Uh, so yeah, so if you have assigned to a team member, only that person team member can edit. Nobody else can check on that. And any feedback is there that has to be provided in coordination with the lead assessor. I hope, Akash, I have answered your question, right? The lead assessor is the person
Yeah.
who has to review and provide that feedback, and a single set of feedback is provided for each assessment. So the lead assessor will take care of that. Next is the team members. You can assign the team members, and you can put in the modules, and then you can create the thing. Scheduling, you can also schedule when, which date, what activity, and who has to do it, who is the assessee, and then you can create it, right? So when you create something, you get in this. So confirm and close, which is not saved. So you create something and then you can edit it again and put the content and then save it again. So I can put money, or I'm just saying like NC management, and then I can save it and it will get saved. Right now you can select all the modules or you can select individual module for the assessments, and you can keep it for that particular assessment, right? And you can use it. So I'll select not 8.3. I'll select clause 9.2 and 9.3 for our reference, and then we can go into the perform section. Now in the perform section, so as I log in, I get the assessment called out here for each one. So I can select the plan. So in the plan, which module I give, that modules will come here. Then I can do the perform section. In the perform section, each clause has the expected outcome. So the assessor can check, he can see the data here. Yeah, so you can see what is the requirement of that. So you have to just give the criteria. So the criteria, it says how much criteria are there. So totally in that particular clause, how many criteria are there, what is the percentage achieved, and what is the condition for the level. So so for example, if I give my percentage, so if I feel this is 100% done, just type 100, right? The 100% of the criteria is met. Right now, the second one. So this is at a overall, what is the weightage which is given? So L1 has L is 85 greater than 85 percentage, then you are good to go. Now L is greater than 85, L1 is 100, right? So in this, number of criteria is also mentioned. So you can type the criteria. So if you feel you are at 86% or 85%, right? So you can click on here 85 and you can give that. So what is the percentage of level achieved in this particular module is also given. So let me just go back to the presentation. I will show it to you here. Yeah. So basically the assessor will enter the degree of fulfillment for each criteria row by row based on evidence, knowledge and judgment, right? And the assessor will provide it's basically a binary approach, either it is 0 or 100%, right? Or if you want to give a percentage level, it is good to give. But again, if there are 4 or 5 line items, the assessor should break that line item and he should give it, okay, 2 out of these 4 are meeting, so I will give him 50%, right? So then 50% you can meet. So each requirement has equal criteria. Okay, there is no thing that the first paragraph has 185%, the second paragraph has 100%. But if you feel there is one line item, I mean one particular level which is not meeting, but rest of the things are okay, then you can give him 85%, which you can benefit of doubt has to be given to the assessee. Always remember, benefit of doubt has to be given to the assessee. Same like audits. If you are not able to find the evidence, and if you are sure that you are don't have any justification for that compliance or for that maturity level, then you can reduce the score. Be true to what you give, right? It's not like this is not a challenge or this is not a race, right? Every organization has its own maturity levels. They have their own best practices. They have their own drawbacks. They have their own improvement plans and goals and strategies, right? So it is different. So that is why it is not the good outcome is that yes, customers can come and do the assessment, but it is always preferable to have an internal employee who is trained as an assessor and perform this, right? So the calculation percentage is calculated based on the summing up of the achievement of all criteria in terms of percentage and then giving you a total percentage. Okay, so this is how the assessment criteria comes. I'm giving it to you here. Yeah, so in this case, when there is a okay, if you are at 20%, right? And see, without creating level 3, you cannot give level 4. Okay, you need to give level 3. Without that, you cannot give level 4. Now, again, one such improvement which is called out is that one of the feedback was that till I meet level 3, I should not go for level 4. But that is wrong. I mean, it is not considered to be good practice. So the IAQG team has not considered that feedback because some organizations may use this tools at a level 4. To a certain extent, they will use, but not to a full extent. So the benefit has to be given to that organization to improve on that. So and to also improve on the level 3, right? So that is why you can give it and it will sum up and it will give you a maturity level at the last. Okay. Next is coming to the. I know it. I'm going fast, but just considering time, please go through this. It's again free. You don't have to do. First study it. Then you can plan and perform. So when you perform, you will have a lot of feedback. As I told earlier, this tool is not 100% matured. It requires a lot of feedback which has to be provided for its improvement. That can be done only when we use it, right, to the full extent possible by us. Now, if there are some areas where you would require an action item, the audit assessee says, no, I have an action item, I would like to implement this. You can record the action item here. The assessor can record the action item with a responsible and target date, and you can put it. You can also record the action item at a later date and then save it. There is a limitation here. You will not. So the expectation is people would want a complete list of action items at the last, so that people will able to collate it. As of now, the tool is not equipped to do that, but in future it is planned. So the result section shows like this. Once you complete, you will have the modules which you have selected, the target levels which you have given, and what is the current level percentage assessed. Based on the percentage assessed, your level achievement will be provided for each of the subclasses. And you can see it in a radar chart. You can see achieved versus target or at a percentage level. Both levels you can see the charts. Currently, the AMM is being used by 1,940 users. India to a moderate level, yes, we are there. It's not that we have not even touched it, but we need a lot of improvement when you compare with US. Even Europe also requires a lot of improvements. Around 16,000 webinar recordings have been viewed and have been completed. There are around 9,000 visitors who have accessed it till May 3rd, 2022, before the IAQG Brussels meeting. And there are visitors from 78 countries which are using this. I will go to the last, some of the things I told you. There's an intermediate version which is going to come in 2023 and 2.0 again based on next revision. ISO has confirmed 9001 stabilization for the next period, but 9100 will start its revision irrespective of ISO 9001 revision. So there will be an intermediate 9100 revision which is going to come. So some of the improvements that are being considered in the tool which are going to come in the future are local storage of user data, concurrent assessment. So parallelly, 4 5 people, now only 1 or 2 people can do it. One people can do it, one person can do it at a time. Company specific, you can create and you can have concurrent assessments. Again, typing, just you can select rather than typing every time, you can select. Then again, display. If there are empty cells, which are cells under evaluation, that can be also shown. And printing options, you can give a printout or download editable copies for the action items so that you can work on it more. Some of the concerns which I already spoke to you earlier on the data security, confidentiality, they are going to improve it. The current security management is working on how the assessments will be visible to others or how the controls will be there. So there are few controls, but there are more further controls which are being called out. New requirements again has come, hyperlinks, linking to SEMH and all those things that are also being considered. Some FAQ. So the most common FAQ is that I have 9100. Why should I do AAMM? I hope I have covered this. It is to enhance your 9100 QMS process. It is for an improvement project. It is not for a compliance perspective. But you can show a better compliance when you have maturity levels in your subclass requirements. Next again, 9100 standard refers to a lot of QMS standards. Again, why AMM will be added. Again, AMM will be considered for addition in the next revision of the 9100 standard under chapter 10. Most probably it will not come as a requirement, but it can come as a recommendation or a formal method for improvement methodology, right? Some of the benefits I would like to emphasize is that for non-certified organizations, it provides a baseline for to go for 9100 certification, to understand what is the minimum compliance of level 1, level 2 in required for meeting the certification requirement. And it is free for them. They don't have to be in the OSS to use that. And again, they can also verify their level of readiness before going for the 9100 external audit. For new 9100 certified organizations, you can see how you have met the minimum requirements, but how you can improve on that, right? And how you can make your process much better by creating process flows, trainings, performance, KPIs, and using these tools, IT tools, development, all these things. And how you can create the QMS to meet all the product realization processes and meet customer requirements. Next is for existing organization. Again, you can aim beyond just 9100 compliance. It's always open for existing QMS organizations to go for higher levels of performance improvements of the processes. So you can identify specific areas under clause 10 and you can focus on them and improve them at a much better level. For customer OEM organizations, yes, you can utilize, you cannot utilize this for supplier selection, but you can utilize this to determine the type and extent of controls on the suppliers. Especially on the surveillance part. So again, it's a mutual agreement. There is no compulsion on any customer or OEM organization to use this or any supplier to use this. If both the organizations mutually agree, okay, you share me the AMM, you do a plan, you do a performance of the AMM, share me your improvement plan. I can see how you are able to improve. I'll just have it in reviews. We'll just check it in reviews, and we can determine on the supplier surveillance. So that way, if mutually agreed, that's a possibility which is there. But again, it's mutual agreement. No emphasis on that. Next is on the supporting the supplier. So you can also promote this to your suppliers. See, not only just you can meet it, you can improve the process. And if you feel certain processes in your supplier organizations require improvement, you can ask them to do improvement plan based on these expected outcomes. some of the challenges. Last, I will take just 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm running out of it. This is the last slide. Many people will feel that it is too theoretical. It cannot be applied practically. Unless otherwise we don't try it, we cannot determine whether it is theoretical only or not, right? Please try it. Say that it is what is the problem which is there in the feedback section, and then we can see how we can improve this tool. People may feel there is no problem in my QMS, why I should worry about it. Continual improvement is always required for the benefit of the organization. So please consider that. Many people will say that it's whole industry is not doing it, but it's not that the whole industry is not doing it. Please see the number of users who have logged in the past. Within 6 months, you have so many users. So please imagine how big the reach is. Next is again, we are already doing something similar. Why I have to follow? I'm already doing some other maturity model. Again, it is the other maturity model which you may follow is for some other reason. It may not be for your QMS. It may or may not be. I don't know. But it is good to merge both and then do it. Right? It's always good to have improvement in your maturity models also. Some people will say, I don't understand. Please go through the trainings. It will help you out better. The main challenge is to sit and read each requirement or each expected outcome. I'm sorry, I'm using the word requirement. It is not requirement. It is an expected outcome of the maturity level. So the expected outcome of the maturity level, please read it, understand it. People will have their own interpretations. Again, we have tried similar models, but it didn't work. Again, that's a very subjective thing. I mean, every model, if you try and you can say, yes, it will not work. So that option is there for every maturity model. There is no 100% that any maturity model will work, right? Unless we don't put it into action. Next is we don't have time or resources. We'll just change the. That's also okay. That's up to you. You want to do it as an improvement. It's up to you. There is no compulsion. Again, last two I would like to emphasize. Do not change the goals and do not do something to get good scores. Right? You are not doing this to show it to anyone. You are just doing this to see where you are. Right? Where is my goal? Where I am? How do I improve from point A to point B? And so that my point B will be my goal. Once you reach point B, there will be a point C or a point D which will go, right? So don't put limitations and say that this is my scope. I just want to do this much only, right? So please have that thought. Again, IAQG requires feedback for continually improving it. Please go through the website. You have self-assessment result feedback. You have maturity model feedback. Online application you can give. So general experience also you can give. You can contact AIMM at iaqg.org by clicking the link in the website, and you can provide them the information. So that's the last. I'm sorry, I couldn't give time for the Q&A. If there are Q&A, I will share you the feedback form. You can provide your Q&As, questions in that. We will come back. We will review within the INAQG team, and we will come back to you, and we will provide you the feedback. If not, we will contact AIMM. We will convey these points to them, and then we will provide you the feedback. I hope we have utilized the time effectively to a certain extent. So this is on the part Q&A. I will anyhow share the feedback form. The feedback form will be something like this, which will be shared to you. Let me share the link in the website also, so that you can. Let me share a shortened URL. I'm putting it in the chat box. You can provide your feedback, and if you want to put anonymously also, it is okay. Every feedback is welcome. We are not trying to capture. The feedback will say whether it's a comment or a question or an improvement which you would like to give. What is the feedback? Please be very specific to the feedback. We would like to know what is that you would like to see in the AIMM tool. right? And if you have any suggestions for improvement, everything is improvement with respect to this webinar, with respect to time management, with respect to the content, with respect to the presenting ability, with respect to the IT sections and everything. Please, you can put in your feedback. All feedbacks, improvements are welcome, right? This feedback is for the AIMM. And please give your name, official email ID, and organization name. It is required as of now. We will keep it confidential. We will not share, apart from INAQG council members, this data. We will ensure that this will be meeting the requirement, right? So your data will be confidential with us with respect to this, right? And every feedback is welcome. Thank you.
Mani?